the History Society Saksha in collaboration with IQAC of Shamlal College Evening. I am Srishti Rana, currently pursuing my graduation from Banaras Hindu University, and it's my privilege to moderate today's session. GSTS was initiated on 7 February 2021 under the guidance of Dr. Manish Karamwar, but began as a small academic initiative during the pandemic, has now grown into a vibrant intellectual platform that connects scholars and students from across the country. With 268 successful sessions, GSTS continues to encourage meaningful dialogue, critical thinking, and scholarly exchange across disciplines. We have successfully completed 5 continuous years of this scholarly journey and are now proudly entering our 6th year. Celebrating this remarkable journey of sustained academic engagement and consistency. Over the years, GSTS has provided a valuable platform for young scholars to present their ideas, share research, and engage in constructive academic discussions, making it a significant space for learning and intellectual growth. It gives me immense pleasure to acknowledge the achievements of this initiative. It has been recognized 3 times by Doordarshan and featured in the Times of India. Our live broadcast was conducted under the G20 Changemaker Summit, and we have collaborated with numerous academic institutions. These honors stand as powerful proof of the GSTS team's dedication and consistent efforts, which includes founder and advisor Dr. Manish Karamwar and moderators Mr. Ajay, Mr. Shubham, Mr. Ankit, Mr. Saurabh, Ms. Manvi, Ms. Samriddhi, and Mr. Manthan. On behalf of GSTS, I extend my sincere gratitude to our respected principal, Professor Nachiketa Singh, for his constant encouragement and academic support, and to the IQAC convener, Dr. Pramod Kumar Divedi, for his valuable institutional guidance and continuous cooperation. I would also like to acknowledge the dedicated efforts of our GSTS convener, Dr. Pramod Kumar, whose coordination and support make each session possible. It is now my great pleasure to introduce our today's esteemed guest of honor, Mrs. Usha Kiran Girdhar. Ma'am is the perfect embodiment of knowledge, service, and lifelong dedication. A person who believes that education is not just a profession but a mission to transform lives. A distinguished lecturer of political science, she recently retired on July 31st, 2025 from Baba Ramdev Sarvodaya Vidyalaya, Prasad Nagar, under the Directorate of Education, Delhi. However, her journey did not stop at retirement. For the past 8 years, she has been serving as a mentor, working tirelessly to bridge the learning gaps of students through special activities and driving educational reforms in schools. Inspired by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's philosophy of pay back to society, she has dedicated her life to the upliftment of the underprivileged. From providing financial aid, books, and uniforms to ensuring food security for children in need. Her heart beats for social welfare. She is also a staunch environmentalist, leading cleanliness drives and teaching the younger generation sustainable practices like composting. Her influence is not limited to India. Mrs. Girdhar is a true global citizen, having traveled to over 35 countries, including the USA, London, France, Germany, and Russia, to promote Indian culture and the Hindi language. She is also a Jyotish Acharya from Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan and a gifted poetess whose works are frequently published in prestigious journals like Hindi Dhara and Window to the Future. Her mantle is decorated with numerous national and international honors, like the prestigious State Teacher Award 2022 for her extraordinary contribution to education, the ninth Dr. Sarojini Naidu International Award 2025, and recognition by the World Book of Records. She has also received special appreciation from the former Deputy CM and Education Minister, Sri Manish Sisodia, for her excellence in the field of education. Alongside the International Hindi Gaurav Samman and the Sahitya Shri Bharati Award. From achieving 100% results in the classroom to representing India at the Global Literary Festival. Her journey is a beacon of inspiration for us all. Ma'am, we are truly honored to have you with us. I respectfully invite you to share your opening remarks and kindly grant us permission to begin today's session. Please, ma'am.
थैंक यू बेटा सृष्टि राजपूत। तो मैं यही कहना चाहूंगी कि सबसे पहले तो इस प्रोग्राम के लिए ग्रेजुएट स्कॉलर टॉप सीरीज 269 में मुझे भी साझेदारी करने का मौका मिला, मैं आपका हिस्सा बनी। तो मनीष सर, डॉक्टर मनीष नहीं कहूंगी, मेरे फ्रेंड भी हैं ये। तो मनीष सर बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। और अच्छे दोस्त वही होते हैं जो हमें आगे ले जाने में मदद करते हैं। तो ये हमारा एक ट्रू उदाहरण भी है कि अपनी भी ग्रोथ करना और बाकी सबके साथ लेके चलना। और बहुत कम लोग ऐसे रह गए हैं जो ग्रोथ के ऊपर काम करते हैं। मतलब लोग सोचते हैं हम आगे बढ़े, बट मनीष सर भी ऐसे हैं कि सबको साथ लेके चलते हैं। वो आपका भी अनुभव रहा होगा। और इसी के साथ ये जो प्रोग्राम है बहुत ही खूबसूरत है, मेरी रुचि के अनुकूल है। मेरा खुद बच्चों को आर्ट एंड क्राफ्ट में सिखाती हूँ, उसका एक पार्ट है ये। उसी में मैं काफी देख भी रही थी कि काफी चीजें हैं उसमें। आगे चल के हम बात करेंगे, पर प्रोग्राम को अब मैं चाहूंगी कि आप लोग शुरू करें ताकि हम सब पहले उसका एंजॉय करें, फिर बाद में हम इस पे चर्चा करेंगे। धन्यवाद।
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your inspiring words and for formally initiating today's session. Now, I would like to introduce our speaker for 269 GSTS session, Miss Kajal, a graduate scholar from Mata Sundari College, University of Delhi. Today, our speaker will explore a fascinating topic titled Beyond the Imperial Atelier, Tracing the Roots, Rise, and Regional Flourishing of Indian Miniature Painting. This subject goes beyond the well-known imperial traditions and invite us to appreciate the rich regional diversity that shaped this art form. While royal courts played an important role in its development, miniature painting truly flourished across regions like Rajasthan, the Pahadi Hills, and the Deccan, each contributing its own distinct style and cultural perspective. Through this discussion, we hope to gain a deeper understanding of how this art form evolved not just as a courtly practice but as a vibrant expression of history, culture, and creativity across the Indian subcontinent. Without further delay, I now hand over the session to our speaker for her talk. Over to you, Kajal.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Uh, just a second, let me share my screen. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kajal Yadav, third year history student at Mata Sundari College for Women, University of Delhi. And as Srishti Didi has also already mentioned, that my topic is Beyond the Imperial Atelier, Tracing the Roots, Rise, and Material Culture of Indian Miniature Painting. I would like to begin by thanking the Graduate Scholars platform for giving me this opportunity. Before I start, I want you to take a look at the slide for a moment. The first slide that I have shared. There are 4 paintings you see here. They're from completely different time periods, different places, different patrons, but they're all part of one continuous tradition that started over 1,000 years ago in India. Today, I want to have a conversation with you about the Indian miniature painting, but not the usual way that we hear about it. Most presentations spend their time on Mughal miniature painting. Well, valid hai, but we are going to talk about what came before the Mughals, what's more important, and what's happening right now today with the tradition. So, my objective today, I have 4 objectives with my presentation today. First is to trace the pre-Mughal tradition. You know, every time we think about a miniature painting, the first thing that comes to our mind is Mughal miniature painting. And for everyday people, for laymen, you know, when they think of miniature, it's always a Mughal, Rajput, Pahadi. But they don't know that there are, you know, pre-existing traditions that were going on in India. Jain tradition, Pala school, and how they transformed and slowly influenced the other traditions that were, you know, emerging. Then I will also understand and examine the Mughal atelier and its transformation because it's an important part of miniature. And then I will also give a brief study of the regional school that developed after the Mughal, while with the Mughals and after the Mughal miniature schools, and analyze the contemporary survival and material culture of miniature in today's time. Now, first, first before I start, I'm curious. How many of you guys knew before I told that there were, there was a tradition of miniature before Mughals? If so, you all can raise your hands if you knew about it. Well, very few knew about the tradition. And also one more thing, how many of have you ever actually held a miniature painting in your hand? Most people haven't. They have seen them in museum behind a glass, but miniature paintings were never meant to be hung on wall like we do in the modern arts. uh, First of all, let's understand the meaning of miniature. First, it's about the scale. The image in the slide, it's a zoomed in image of a miniature. See the intricate gold work, those tiny flowers. A miniature painting is small enough to hold in the palm of your hand, like usually this big as my palm. Second is about the extreme detailing. When you look at a real miniature painting up close, I mean, if you have a magnifying glass, please use that and then observe the painting. You will see individual brush strokes that are finer than a strand of hair. Artists used brush made from squirrel hair. Literally, just a few strands they were tied together, and artists would use it to create miniature. Third is about the material. The earliest Indian miniature paintings were painted on palm leaves, actual leaves from palm trees that were dried, treated, and then bound together like a book. Later on, around the 12th century, artists shifted to paper. But paper wasn't like what we use today. It was handmade, polished to have a smooth finish. And then fourth is the pigment. That is very important. The color you see in miniature paintings weren't synthetic. They were ground from minerals and gemstones. For example, blue came from lapis lazuli. It was a semi-precious stone that was imported all the way from Afghanistan. Literally, it is called the liquid gold, and a lot of European artists used lapis lazuli, ultramarine blue that was extracted from lapis lazuli for paintings of God because it was so expensive that it could not be used for normal paintings. Red came from cinnabar, a mercury compound. Gold was real gold powder. And then fifth, these paintings, they had stories. They weren't just for decoration. They weren't meant to be hung on the wall. They were illustrated religious text, history chronicles, poetry, imperial court information. You were meant to hold these paintings in your hand like a textbook and read the image. When I say miniature painting, I'm talking about not only the small scale, but also the incredible details, handcrafted storytelling art. Now, when you think of miniature, what comes to your mind? First, most people immediately think of Mughal painting, Jahangir on a throne, the painting that I have used in my presentation. Elaborate court scenes, Persian influenced art. That's what dominates this conversation usually. And that also makes sense because miniature paintings, especially Mughal paintings, are very extraordinary. They were so well documented. They are in major museums and they're widely popular. But there's the thing, that's not where it started. India has a painting miniature tradition 400 years before Babur crossed the Khyber Pass. So let me share that with you. First, my core argument is the same, that miniature paintings cannot be fully understood if we begin with Mughal atelier. It has, a longer tradition, an evolving tradition that had deep roots in the Indian tradition way before the Mughals even entered India. This is a painting from Pala school. This was made in Bengal and what's now Eastern India and Bangladesh, sometime in the 11th or 12th century. It's around 900. It's about 900 years ago that this was painted. And look at the painting closely on your right. Who are these figures? They are Buddhist deities that are painted, especially bodhisattvas, beings who attained enlightenment but chose to remain in the world to help others. Where was these painted? In a monastery. probably Nalanda or Vikramshila, two of the greatest Buddhist universities in the ancient world. Thousands of monks studied there, and in these monasteries, there were workshops where scribes and painters created these illustrated manuscripts. What was it painted on? It was palm leaves, actual dried leaves from the tala palm tree. You can see the narrow horizontal format. That's because of the shape of the leaf. The artist had to work within the physical constraint. Now look at the style. This painting right on your left. Uh, you know, you see the figures. They have this flowing sinuous quality. They have soft curves, elegant posture. The colors are subdued. Earthy tones are used, muted red, blues. There's no use of harsh colors or nothing so loud. And also notice something else. These figures look like sculptures. It's not accidental. The Pala dynasty was famous for their bronze and stone sculptures. And the painters who were working in the same visual vocabulary as the sculptors, they used the same proportion and the same poses. And they were influenced by those sculptures. That is why these paintings are so identical to actual sculpture. If you go and search, Pala tradition, Pala miniature paintings, sometimes you'll see there are, sculptures, and these paintings are so similar as if somebody made the painting looking at the sculptures. Now, here's a name I want you to remember, Dhiman. Dhiman was a painter active during the Pala period. We know his name from inscriptions. That is extremely rare for this time period. Even after that, actually, most artisans were anonymous. The artists, they were never named. But Dhiman was so skilled that his name was recorded. He worked for the Pala kings and created Buddhist manuscript. And he is one of the earliest named artists in the Indian history. Now let's move on to the Pala techniques. What the artists used, because this is what it makes so impressive. First, they prepared the palm leaf. It had to be dried, treated with turmeric paste to prevent insects from damage. That is their style of conservation. Then polishing with a stone, and then only you could paint on it. The artist would outline the figure with a fine brush using black ink that was made out of soot. Burning an oil lamp, and then you will mix gum arabic into it to as a binder, and then it was used as a black ink for the outlines. Then came the colors, and there's one challenge that it was that palm leaves are narrow. Artists couldn't afford any mistake. Every brush stroke has to be precise because you could not erase it. The paintings were bound together with cords that passed through holes pierced in the leaf. You can actually see those holes in the surviving manuscript, and usually there are two holes, one on each side to tie it. And the subjects were almost always Buddhist. Why? There's a historical reason for it, because Pala dynasty were devout of Buddhist. They patronized monasteries. The king would commission manuscripts as an act of religious merit. The most important text that we know is Ashtashashrika Prajan Parmita. It is, the literal translation is the perfection of wisdom in 8,000 verses. It's a core Mahayana Buddhist text, and there are illustrated copies from the Pala period that still survives. But unfortunately, we do not have all the copies. Some are in Dhaka, some in Kolkata, and major collection is in Los Angeles County Museum of Art in the US. This tradition unfortunately came to an end with the invasion of Bakhtiyar Khilji, who invaded Bengal in 1203 and burned the monasteries and destroyed Nalanda. But this tradition, the monks who were artists and monks, they fled from Bengal and went to Nepal and settled there, and they continued this tradition there. That is why a lot of these paintings and the style of this painting art form is seen in the Nepalese art as well. And they also have a rich collection of these paintings. Now, Jain tradition, or the Western Indian school. It is from the 14th or 15th century. The tradition ran roughly from the 10th century all the way to the 16th, about 600 years. The first thing that you notice is the style is completely different from Pala. You focus on the eyes. Look at the eyes of the figures. They are huge and almost bulging, and the painter, they pushed it way over to the far side of the face. It is a signature of the Western Indian painting. Once you see it, you will recognize it instantly. The colors were used, they were very bold. Flat reds, bright blues, intense yellow were used. There was nothing subtle about the Western school. Everything was very graphic, angular, and direct. And the figures, they were stylized. They were not naturalistic. They were symbolic representation. But why does it look like that? Because the purpose was different. Pala paintings was made for monks in monasteries, for contemplation and study. However, Jain painting, on the other hand, was made for merchants. Well, in Jainism, there's a concept called punya, similar to what we have in Hinduism, religious merit. And if you commission a beautifully illustrated manuscript, you earn punya. The more lavish the manuscript, the more merit you accumulate. And Gujarat in the 13th and 15th century was extremely wealthy. It was a major trading hub, and Jain merchants had money. They invested the money into manuscript. Here's the political context behind this. When the Delhi Sultanate and later regional sultanates started to conquer Gujarat, they discouraged the building of new Jain temples. So the wealthy Jain couldn't build temples anymore. So what they did instead, they poured their patronage into manuscript, hence development of Jain tradition, Jain miniature painting tradition. That's why thousands of Jain manuscripts survive today. They were preserved in temple libraries called bhandars, literally the treasure house. Some families would commission dozens of manuscripts over generation. Now, let me tell you about the technique, how they were made. The craft of making these is very fascinating. First of all, the artist used flat perspective. They were also made on palm leaves, but around 12th century, paper started arriving in India through trade routes in Central Asia and Persia. But there's a very interesting thing about these artists. Because they were using palm leaves, every stroke they made was kind of determined by the material itself. The angles that you see, the texture that was seen, it was because of the palm leaf, because of the medium that was used. But when paper came to India, and the artist adopted the paper and started painting on paper, but they still kept the texture. They deliberately, created those textures by themselves, like a memory. And because the giant art, patrons were so rich, they used all the expensive material that was available, whether it was gold, lapis lazuli, or any other semi-precious stone that could be used. They used cinnabar for red color which contained mercury, toxic to work with, but it produced color that haven't faded in 600 years. They weren't cheap materials. A single illustrated Kalpasutra manuscript might cost as much as a small house. And the subject matter of these paintings was, Kalpasutra is directly translated as the Book of Good Conduct, and it tells the story of Mahavira, the founder of Jainism, his life from birth, renunciation, enlightenment to death. And every Jain family has a copy of it, or they mean to acquire a copy of it, as it holds a religious significance. Now, let's move to the Mughal atelier. When the Mughal atelier emerged under Akbar as a highly organized imperial workshop. Akbar made this organization with merit-based promotional workshops where artists had their own specialized work. There was a specialist for every single work to do. If you ever get a chance to visit the National Museum, Delhi, there is one section there, the miniature painting section, and when you enter there, the first few paintings are incomplete. Only the outlines are made with pencil and colors, and then there are complete paintings. It is to show the process. There was one expert who will outline, who will create only the outlines. Then one expert will be to fill in the flat colors. Then there will be one expert who will do the detailing. There was someone else one expert to create the nature, the trees and the shrubs that were created, the flowers. And one of the very large and one of the biggest project that Akbar did is called Hamza Nama, which is a story of Hamza. Then, if we look at this painting, I don't know if it's visible. Yeah, this painting made by Ustad Mansoor. it was made under Jahangir, and because Jahangir focused so much on naturalism, it was a key innovation of Mughal. There was a close study of animals and anatomy, and the rare animals were documented by painters. This painting right here is an example of that. Then came Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb. Under Shah Jahan, there was no significant development, but yeah, it was stable. But when with coming of Aurangzeb, the tradition came to an end because, unfortunately, according to his belief and in his orthodox religious belief, paintings were not they were considered haram, and all the artists fled the Mughal courts. But the artists, they fled the Mughal courts and they moved and shifted to other royal courts, that of Rajasthan and Pahadi areas, and they took that tradition with them. Those dispersed painters, they went to Rajput court, Mewar, Kota, Krishngarh, and in Pahadi kingdoms, Bhasauli, Kangra, Guler, they blended Mughal techniques with local themes, devotional subjects, regional aesthetic. We get the Bani Thani portraits from Krishngarh, literally the Mona Lisa of India. We get Nansuk's intimate painting of the daily life of Guler. What made Rajasthani different from Mughal was that Mughal focused more on imperial royal life courts, but Rajasthani, Pahadi, these paintings were about everyday life. It was about devotion, Krishna, Radha Krishna, Bhakti. This is what their subjects used to be. That is what they focused more on. Then came the Deccan paintings. Now Deccan paintings too had a hard time to get that recognition because they were not considered as a separate school earlier. It was only after 1928 that they were considered as a separate school, and we study them differently. These the Deccan paintings had a very rich cosmopolitan influence of Persia, Turkey, and South Indian tradition. It was a blend of all, and along with the Mughal tradition developing, it took influence of it all. The paintings were rich, imaginative, and often dreamlike. All of this is important and all of this is remarkable, but it is also extremely studied. So now, what I will focus on is where we'll spend the rest of our time. It is what happened after all of this. Where are these paintings now? Who's making them today? And how is this tradition alive in the contemporary culture? Let's find out about the contemporary condition of these paintings. First, we'll study about the collection. Now, unfortunately, India do not have a major collection of miniature paintings, even though National Museum Delhi does have a comprehensive collection of Indian miniatures. A major collection still sits in different museums of the world, like Victoria Albert Museum, London, Metropolitan Museum of Art, New York, British Library, London, and they include immaculate, collections of miniature styles of different schools. A lot of paintings are also in private collection. We don't know how many because private collectors do not publicize what they own. But auction houses like Christie and Sotheby, occasionally they do open up their paintings for sale, and they range from hundred to thousands of dollars, and they sell for a crazy amount of money. Now let's move to the conservation and preservation process. Now these paintings were made centuries ago, so they definitely need to be taken care of. Now what the reality is that the paintings are very fragile. They were made so long ago. They are made on paper or palm leaf, and they are definitely going to be affected by the nature. The pigments are stable because they are natural, but the paper isn't. And humidity is the enemy. If you store the miniature in a place with high humidity, especially like India had during monsoon, the paper will wrap, the paint will flake off, mold will grow. That's why museum conservation is so critical. Modern museums keep miniatures in climate-controlled storage, usually around 50% relative humidity, around 20 to 22 Celsius degree of temperature, and they are stored flat in archival boxes, sometimes with sheet of acid paper between them, so the color doesn't transfer or the color doesn't fade away inside the box, and when they're displayed, they're behind UV protected glasses, and they're kept in very low lighting. No, usually no more than 50 lux. That's about the brightness of a single candle. Why? Because the light will also fade. The pigment, every natural mineral pigment will fade over time if it's exposed to bright light. And there is also a lot of restoration work happening. If a painting is torn, conservator can repair it by using, there's a material called Japanese tissue that is used, Japanese tissue paper and wheat starch paste. It's a traditional method that is used by which they recover the tones. If the paper is torn somewhere, the painting, they fix it instead of using glue or tape. And if the painting is flaking, they can stabilize it, and they also do restoration by painting over it using the materials, mimicking the texture of the uh, paint or material used earlier. But the reality is that not all paintings are conserved. A lot of miniature are still in private hand, and India and in abroad, they are not stored properly.
Kajal, sorry for disturbing, but you have only 5 minutes, so
Yeah, sure,
please.
I'll move on. We are losing paintings to neglect, and there are digitization projects that are happening. Paint photographers, miniatures being photographed in high resolution, and there are online libraries. If you want, you can visit the National Museum. There is an online library of National Museum and British Library as well, where you can go through these collections online. They have digitized it and made archives out of them. Now, uh, let's move on to living tradition. Well, are there artists who make miniature paintings today? Of course, there are. There are karkhanas and family workshops with generations of artists who make these paintings. You can visit Udaipur and Jaipur and get these paintings. And apart from there are very well-known painters as well. For example, Shrazia Sikandar, who works on identity and gender, and her work is influenced by miniature a lot. And there's Imran Qureshi. He does a large scale interpretation of miniature paintings, and they take inspiration from miniatures and recreate them in the modern sense. Now, miniatures are not limited to just artists. We can see them in everyday life. There are brands. For example, there is this brand called Lai Design, and they make jewelry inspired from miniature paintings. This pendant that you see, it has a bird that is inspired from Mughal miniature painting. There are literally clothes that with prints of miniature. You can find notebooks, phone covers that have miniatures on them, cushion covers, and a lot many things. There are people who do home decor by making wallpapers out of miniature and inculcating the miniature aesthetic into their everyday life. For example, I also have this notebook that's inspired by miniature paintings, and it makes it more accessible. And if you want, in a National Museum, you can, for example, right behind me, you can see a lot of miniature painting prints. I got them in National Museum. They cost only 30 rupees, and you can get an envelope of it. Or if you are interested, you can get this gallery sheets, and they have like collection of miniatures and information regarding them. I'll show you just a second. Like these, and they makes it more accessible, and you can inculcate those artists like the miniature aesthetic into your everyday life. Now, I personally also paint and recreate miniature paintings to study the technique and the way it's made. This painting right here is created by me, and there are ethical obligations that we need to keep in mind while copying or recreating the image. Acknowledgement is important, adaptation is important, and to keep the relevance of miniature today, we have to make it adaptable. We are on the right path, on this commercialization of paintings, you can see, but we have to make sure that it's ethical and the artists are paid well, the artist is recognized, and the museums are also paid from where the paintings are taken from. So yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Kajal, for such an insightful presentation. Your talk beautifully highlighted the richness of Indian miniature painting. So now we will move to the question and answer session. So, how do the early traditions of Jain, Buddhist, and Deccan manuscript illustrations contribute to the foundational vocabulary of Indian miniature painting?
That's a great question. You see, miniatures are meant to be held in hand. they were painted. The starting of making miniatures was because so that you can illustrate stories on them, because printing presses did not exist back then. So how will you illustrate imagery? So miniatures were used in that sense, and they laid a foundation of miniature tradition for the coming generation. When Mughal came in, they Razmanama was translated and illustrations were painted to create that visual, to have that visual as well along with the text. So yeah, that miniatures have that. That is how Jain and Pala tradition influenced and laid the foundation for the coming traditions.
Very well explained. So now moving further, लघु प्रारूप स्वयं परिप्रेक्ष्य विवरण और दर्शकों की सहभागिता को कैसे प्रभावित करता है?
Sorry,
I'll
this is
repeat.
हाँ जी, हाँ जी.
लघु प्रारूप स्वयं परिप्रेक्ष्य विवरण और दर्शकों की सहभागिता को कैसे प्रभावित करता है?
Well,
that means miniature. That means yeah, miniature. The source, how the miniature is become a source for everyone.
A source for everyone.
Yeah, how the source for everyone, and also the detailings which are there in the paintings, how they become source for the further studies or that particular time period and the culture associated with it. Yeah.
Okay, well, miniature paintings, for example, let's take an example of the very well known Mughal. You made scenes of court, and it was court studies and imperial studies. So the sceneries that were painted were affected by the real time. The artists who created them, they were living at the time, and they were influenced by various things that were happening around them. So miniatures में जो subjects होते हैं वो everyday life से influence होते हैं उस time के. So we can take paintings as a source to understand the history, and the motifs that are used can also tell about the nature of the time. For example, if a particular flower is painted, so it might be available around the area. So paintings can be a big source to study and understand history.
Okay, so moving further, in what ways did regional schools incorporate local myths, folklores, and devotional traditions?
Well, I'll take another example of Rajput painting tradition. The main theme of Rajput paintings were Bhakti tradition, especially Krishna Radha were the main themes of the painting. And Mughal paintings were more focused on court and imperial life, but Rajput paintings were depicting everyday life, and it also included the religious mix of the time, what was developing and what was relevant at the time. For example, Bhakti was prevalent, Radha Krishna cult was growing, so the subjects were also you can see the subjects. And we can take example of Jain and Pala as well. The rulers, they were patronizing those paintings. The subjects, for example, in Jain, Mahavir is painted because the kings, they were patronizing, the Jain merchant was patronizing them, because that's what the prevalent religion was. And when we think of Pala, Buddhist paintings were the main, Bodhisattvas and Buddhist themes were the main subject, because the kings were patronizing them, and the king themselves were Buddhists. So yeah.
ओके, अब लास्ट क्वेश्चन जो हम अपने हर स्पीकर से पूछते हैं, तो आपका GSTS के साथ एक्सपीरियंस कैसा रहा, अगर आप कुछ शेयर करना चाहें?
It was really amazing. Sir is really patient. He explained everything so nicely to me. Shailendra Bhaiya as well. The way they their guidance was really helpful. I changed my PPT a few times, and they were so patient with me. They explained me everything so well. Yeah, and it was a great opportunity, and I really enjoyed working with all of you.
Thank you, Kajal, for your kind words. I once again respectfully invite our esteemed guest of honor to share her concluding remarks and reflections on the discussion. Please, ma'am.
बहुत ही सुंदर अभिव्यक्ति थी काजल यादव. मैं देख रही थी, पूरा इतिहास सामने ला दिया, और पूरी जर्नी जो थी इतने कम टाइम के अंदर जिस तरह से आपने प्रेजेंटेशन दी, अभिव्यक्ति भी की, विजुअलाइज भी दिखाया, और कुछ सैंपल्स भी थे आपके पास, जिसको देख के मैं ज्यादा प्रभावित हुई, क्योंकि हम जब बच्चों को सामने दिखाते हैं पिक्चर के अलावा तो उसका प्रभाव ज्यादा देर तक रहता है दिमाग में और उसका असर ज्यादा होता है। और वही असर के लिए मैं अपने पास भी रख रखी हूँ। मेरे बच्चों ने मुझे रिटायरमेंट के टाइम पे ये छोटे छोटे डायरी एज ए विश के रूप में दी थी, तो मैं आपको याद करके मिनीचर को, तो डायरी भी मेरे हाथ में आ गई। और आपकी पेंटिंग के साथ साथ, क्योंकि मैंने कहा कि मेरा शौक भी है, मेरे बच्चों की बनाई हुई है, अगर आप देखेंगे ना ये इस तरह से, तो हमारे आर्ट एंड क्राफ्ट ईएमसी में एक हमारा हैप्पीनेस करिकुलम और ये सब जो चला, तो आपकी जो सारा वर्क था वो हमारे बच्चों ने अपनी प्रैक्टिस में उतारा हुआ था, तो मेरे लिए जानना और इजी हो गया। मैं इसी में देख रही थी, जैसे आप जितने उदाहरण दे रहे थे, तो इस तरह से जो हमारे घरों में भी आजकल, आपने पहली बात तो प्रेजेंट बहुत अच्छा किया, और इतने कम टाइम में इतनी सारी जो मुगल से पहले का, मुगल के बाद का, बुद्धिज्म, जैन और आज तक का नेशनल आर्ट गैलरी जो भी हमारे हैं, उन सबको लेके चले, तो ये बहुत बड़ी बात है कि इतने कम समय में उसको ऑर्गेनाइज करना। तो ओवरऑल आपने दोबारा से रिफ्रेश हम लोगों को भी किया कि सारी जो भी आपका एक कलेक्शन था उसको हमें भी देखने को मिला। तो आपकी प्रेजेंटेशन तो नंबर 1 थी, और जिस तरह से आपने इतने कम समय में उसको अभिव्यक्त किया वो और ज्यादा बेहतर रहा, क्योंकि कई बार क्या होता है कंटेंट छूट जाता है, तो आपने पूरा फुलफिल किया। उस चीज का भी मैंने नोट करी थी कि बहुत ही अच्छे से अपनी विजुअलाइज करके एक्टिविटीज को बेस बना के जिस तरह से आपने रखा। इसके साथ साथ मैं देख रही थी कि जैसे हमारे यहाँ मधुबनी, वर्ली और कलमकारी, ये सब हम लोग साड़ियाँ दुपट्टे लेते हैं, और आजकल एक ट्रेंड भी आ गया जो और अभी लेटेस्ट हमारी ड्रेसेस के साथ साथ वेडिंग का भी जो ट्रेंड है, वो भी क्लासिकल और पेंटिंग और ये हमारी ट्रेडिशनल जो है उनको लेके हम चल रहे हैं। आजकल अगर हम देखते हैं ना कि गिफ्ट भी देना है, तो कप में भी कुछ ऐसा आर्टिस्टिक जोड़ देते हैं, तो ये बहुत ही विस्तृत है। एक आपने सृष्टि क्वेश्चन किया था कि मिनीचर का जो है यूज या किस तरह से प्रभावित करती है आम जनता को, ये जिस तरह से इमोशंस होते हैं उसी का एक पार्ट है। शब्दों से कुछ बातें हम कह पाते हैं, पर कई बातें हम ड्राइंग के थ्रू, चित्रकला के थ्रू अभिव्यक्त करते हैं। कई बार शब्द कम पड़ते हैं, तो हम अपनी अभिव्यक्ति जो पिक्चर्स के अकॉर्डिंग कर लेते हैं। तो ये भी बहुत ही खूबसूरती से आपने बताया। तो मैं यही देख रही थी कि मनीष सर ने भी ये टॉपिक बहुत बढ़िया चुना, और ये मेरे ख्याल से आपको तो मुझे ये लगा एक बार कि हमारे स्कूलों में भी हम इंट्रोड्यूस कर दें, क्योंकि हम लोग ऐसे सेशन देते हैं और स्पेशल बुलाते हैं। और एक विद्यांजलि जो मोदी जी है उनका एक प्रोग्राम है हमारे जो स्कूलों में चल रहा है, तो उसमें पर्सनली जो एक्टिविटी जो भी बच्चों के वर्क हैं, बच्चों से रिलेटेड है, उनके इनहेंस करने वाले, ग्रोथ करने वाले, तो उनको भी इंट्रोड्यूस करते हैं। तो आज के संदर्भ में भी देखा जाए या पुराने समय में भी इसकी सार्थकता डे बाय डे, दिन पर दिन बढ़ रही है, कम नहीं हो रही है। तो मैं यही कहूंगी कि बहुत अच्छी प्रेजेंटेशन थी और ये प्रोग्राम बहुत अच्छा था, और आप सभी की साझेदारी और भागीदारी बहुत ही खूबसूरत थी और अच्छा लगा। थैंक यू।
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your valuable remarks and guidance. Your insight truly enriched today's discussion.
एक मिनट, एक चीज मैं ऐड करना चाह रही थी। थोड़ा सा मैंने एक चीज पढ़ा था, तो उसको ही सुदर्शन पारिक जो ना 3rd जनरेशन के, जो चावल के दाने में भगवत गीता और ये वंदे मातरम, वो उन्होंने लिखा है। अभी 3rd जनरेशन है उनकी, तो उनको अभी पद्मश्री के लिए भी अप्लाई करने को बोला हुआ है। तो मैं ये ऐड करना चाहती थी कि ये चित्र इसमें मिनीचर वाले में चावल के दाने पे काम करने वाले पे ये 3rd पीढ़ी है सुदर्शन पारिक। तो मुझे था कि ये भी हम सभी को अवगत कराए। थैंक यू।
Okay. As we came to the end of today's session, I would like to sincerely thank our esteemed guest of honor, our speaker, and all the participants for making this discussion meaningful and engaging. This talk helped us see that Indian miniature painting is not limited to codes, but is a vibrant blend of regional styles and cultural influences. GSTS continues to be a platform where such academic dialogues help us think critically and broaden our perspectives. Thank you everyone for your active participation. With this, I respectfully hand over the session to our founder and advisor, Dr. Manish Karamwar, for the formal closing of today's session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Srishti. So really, it's another wonderful session, 269th session of the GSTS continuous 6th year. I think Kajal has the second appearance, or maybe the second appearance. No, it's your first. Okay, because Mata Sundari College has given us a wonderful orators, wonderful researcher, and Dr. Simi Mehta Kapoor is here. Few scholars are here. Dr. Devrani also just, I think, she left this meeting, and she was here. So really, it's a fantastic to connect with the Mata Sundari College and the Samral Evening College, and I'm moderator from Banaras Hindu University, and our guest of honor from one of the prestigious schools, and we were together at MPhil. She was my senior. I don't know why she calling me sir. You are my senior, and my all respect to you. After 25 years, we got to reconnect through the GSTS. Almost 24 years, I reconnect श्रीमती उषा किरण, उनसे हम 24-25 साल बाद reconnect हुए through GSTS. So it's a great reconnect series also, where we reconnect so many things. So I would like to invite two of my guests here to give a sense of some idea. One, Priti Rai, a former moderator and the former GSTS moderator and the speaker, GSTS 10th. So Priti, if you are comfortable, can you share your some remarks on this topic? Priti Rai. Okay, maybe she is traveling somehow, no issues. So again, I would like to invite Dr. Simi Kapoor Mehta for her remarks. Ma'am.
Good evening, sir. Thank you for providing this platform to our students. Kajal has given a wonderful talk today, and I'm really thankful that she could actually gather all her information in such a nice manner, in a very presentable manner. And I would also like to thank Usha ma'am, who was very kind with her words to Kajal. She was I could just feel the love for children when she was speaking about Kajal. That is, ma'am, my regards to you. And another thing, Kajal, I would like to say a few words about Kajal. As a student, she is one of our brightest students. It's not only that she is presenting here on a particular topic, but she is an all-rounder who has participated in various aspects, in discussions, she's working on certain projects in college, and she's done us proud. She's one of our toppers also. She has always been amongst the first three. So it is very heartening that such a student gets such a platform, and that thanks to you, sir, for that. And about the painting part, I can say Dr. Shivangi was there actually the skill teacher related to the skill enhancement paper. And I think somewhere down the line, Kajal, the credit also goes to Shivangi ma'am here, because she guided you guys so well that you can come on this platform and express yourselves in this way. And so thank you. Thank you a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simi ma'am. Always you are the backbone of this initiative. Another scholar, Anjali, and she was very regular in this platform. Anjali, want to share? कुछ आप share करना चाहते हो, Anjali? Anjali? Okay, maybe she's hesitant to say something. So I'd like to invite one of the teacher from Samral Evening College, Dr. Rakesh, want to say something. So you can give the speaker Kajal for few remarks. Rakesh, Dr. Rakesh.
जी सर, आज के इस
Yes,
कार्यक्रम
Dr.
के लिए जी जी सर
Hmm.
आज के इस कार्यक्रम के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद कि इन्होंने इतने बारीकी से सारी चीजों को और गहराई से इसको रखा और सारी चीजों को जो है इन्होंने एक मतलब कि एक छोटी सी चीजों में इन्होंने समेट करके दिखाने का जो प्रयास किया यह काबिल तारीफ है। और मैम भी बहुत ही अच्छे तरीके से इसको डिस्क्राइब की और मैम का जितना अनुभव है वो अनुभव तो ऐसा लग रहा था जैसे गागर में सागर भरने जैसा हो। और इसके लिए मैं चाहूँगा कि यह जो प्लेटफॉर्म है या चाहे आर्ट कल्चर के लिए हो या हिस्ट्री के लिए हो, मतलब कि एवरी फील्ड के लिए जैसा कि सर ने इसको ओपन कर दिया है और इसमें सभी बच्चों के लिए एक ऐसा प्लेटफॉर्म प्रदान हो रहा है कि जैसे मानिए कि एक सिविल सर्वेंट एस्पिरेंट्स यहाँ से तैयार हो रहे हो या अलग अलग फील्ड के बच्चे तैयार हो रहे हो और सबको एक प्लेटफॉर्म ऐसा मिल रहा है जिसमें बच्चों के अंदर वह कॉन्फिडेंस लेवल भी जागृत हो रहा है, आगे बढ़ने के वह अवसर प्रदान हो रहे हो। तो इसके लिए जीएसटीएस का मैं काफ़ी धन्यवाद करना चाहूँगा और साथ ही साथ मनीष सर का भी काफ़ी धन्यवाद कि जिन्होंने इस प्लेटफॉर्म को काफ़ी मतलब कि बिना रुके हुए एवरी संडे और 5 to 6 मतलब यह कंटिन्यूटी जो है अपने आप में एक बहुत ही बेहतरीन और काबिल तारीफ है। सब लोगों से ऐसा संभव नहीं हो पाता और इसके लिए श्यामलाल कॉलेज के प्रिंसिपल प्रोफेसर नचिकेता सिंह सर, कन्वीनर डॉक्टर प्रमोद कुमार सर, IQAC कन्वीनर डॉक्टर प्रमोद कुमार द्विवेदी सर और श्यामलाल इवनिंग कॉलेज के सभी सांध के जितने जो सारे प्रोफेसर हैं, आकृति मैम हो, अजय सर हो, सीमा मैम हो और DN सर हो, सभी का विशेष रूप से धन्यवाद जिन्होंने अपने प्रयास से इस पूरे इस प्रोग्राम को सफल बनाने के लिए दिन रात एक मेहनत करते हैं और साथ ही साथ इस GSTS टीम को पूरी तरीके से एक कह लीजिए कि एक ऐसा तरीके से तैयार किया गया कि जो सब में जो है एक साथ मिल करके और आगे बढ़ने की और सारी तरीके से जो है उसको एक प्लेटफॉर्म पर ला करके सब में एक नई चेतना जागृत करने के लिए इस पूरी टीम को जो है बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद और आभार और मनीष सर को स्पेशल थैंक्स।
Thank you, Rakesh. Thank you. So my last comment on this, because as I was a history teacher and history teacher, and it's a very important how the miniature painting become a source, because to understand and how beautifully Kajal you have portrayed the most of the part. Basically, what happened, people are more stressed on the Mughal miniature somehow, but you have dropped down a very important thing, past, future, present, and now this is the contemporary time. It's very important that you connect the dots between the Jain, Buddhism, and the Mughals, and now the contemporary painting. You are also a painter. So many of my students are painters. So how it's not the era, it's not the Mughal, Rajput, it's the subject, it's the expression. What is the painting? What is the music? How, I don't understand how we classify and why we classify this this gharana and that gharana, a very minute change in the every gharanas, and because it's a we are living in a dividing society. Why not we are gather? It's a continuous aroma of that art. It's not that gharana, it's not that Bengali, Rajputani, and this and that, but it's a expression. तो काजल आपने बहुत बढ़िया से अपने एक्सप्रेशन को प्रेजेंट किया. आर्ट इज ए फॉर्म ऑफ एक्सप्रेशन, आर्ट इज ए फॉर्म ऑफ आइडियाज टू रिफ्लेक्ट द कॉन्टेम्पररी situation. So it's a source of the history. It's not that it's my remarks. I know the textbook is not going to change because we have to live in this divided society. But what is the art? Art is an expression. not only in India, and as your history student and Simi ma'am and most of the history students are here, every civilization passed through a certain phases: Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic, and after that we reach who we are. So the division is what? Division to fix up some intellectual theory and practicality. But what is important? Everything is your expression. Sometimes a prisoner also gives you so many ideas to scratch on the walls. This is the most important idea. So, and the cave paintings, and now you are talking about the miniature painting, like it's awesome. And this not only the emotion, it's a concentration also, Miss Kajal. Now these days, for the concentration, we are using loud music. How come a loud music gives you concentration? How the louder voice gives you concentration? What is concentration? To work minutely. That's why this is called miniature painting. So this is what, not painting is not only the object. Painting is a emotion, painting is a yoga, and the minute reflections of your ideas. So those who are painters, so it's advice to all my PhD and MA students, involve yourself in one this kind of painting, art, drama, and culture. So this way you can give your way. That means what is all these things? This is thing how we search ourselves. Akbar is not here. Shah Jahan not here. Through history, we are searching ourselves. Through history, Kajal is searching herself. Not Kajal is searching the miniature painting. Kajal is searching how the mentor and mentee relationship is evolving, and now these days how Simi Mehta ma'am and the Devrani ma'am connect to you people. This is the important thing. So through the whole idea, miniature painting, what you are grasping the idea of connection, idea of emotion. Thank you very much. This is share my idea, but thank you, Kajal, a young scholar who came in this platform, and you are star of the day. Thank you for joining, and kindly spread this message to everyone, other colleges also, the part of this journey. And thank you, my old senior, my classmate in the 2000 era, and so you connected me after 25 years. It's a long history, and still you are energetic. So my gratitude towards you, and definitely I see you rising, and what you want, you must achieve in the coming days also. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, my all scholars from different colleges and my PhD scholars. So Rakesh ji ने already vote of thanks दे दिया है, तो बार-बार प्रिंसिपल, टीचर इंचार्ज का नाम लेना सही नहीं है. हम नहीं लिया भी जा सकता है, लेकिन काफी हो चुका है. तो thank you very much. Have a nice day. Take care. We'll meet on the next Sunday. और नेक्स्ट संडे की बात बता दूं, अभी तक ये फिक्स नहीं है कि नेक्स्ट संडे कौन बोलेगा. दिस इज द चैलेंज ऑफ GSTS, बिकॉज कई बार क्या होता है, हमारे अंडर ग्रेड स्टूडेंट जो बोलना है वो संडे के बाद फोन ऑफ कर देते हैं, हमें बताते भी नहीं है कि हमको नहीं बोलना है. तो कई बार क्या होता है कि संडे के बाद वो फोन ऑफ करके बैठ जाते हैं. सो दिस इज द लैक ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन, एंड पेंटिंग इज अ कम्युनिकेशन. थैंक यू काजल, हैव अ नाइस डे, टेक केयर, विल मीट. या थैंक यू, विल मीट नेक्स्ट संडे. थैंक यू उषा मैम, थैंक यू.